Good morning, all of my beautiful Tau people. Well, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It is time for us to learn about a little bit of the Orks. So, I am joined here tonight by a very, very good friend of mine from the New South Wales tournament circuit, Mr. Rank 1 CSM himself, Ben Tinker. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, thanks. Yeah, nice to be on. I know we've kind of teed this up for a while, so
Oh,
it's
mate, we
been
have
good.
been sort of like left and right of each other at like all
Yeah,
points. But we are finally here and we're finally going to be talking
finally
about
here.
the WAAAGH. And actually, I might bring it up to something which is a little bit more visually pleasing. Let's just full screen that. And let's talk about some of your beautiful green boys because I think the first time that I ever met you, you were rocking the meme that was, what was it, like fucking two stompers at an event or something? What's the real
So
big like Gorkanaut, Morkanaut sort of
yeah,
thing?
there was a period as ninth was wrapping up. I decided to go on the Stomper spree, and I brought the Stomper to like 6 events. And I think the best I ever did was like 2-5. It was miserable. It was so bad.
Well, at least you had fun, and that is what is the most important thing. Now, one thing that is not going to be fun for all of the Tau people that are going to be watching this is your new fucking codex, because my goodness, this thing looks kind of insane, dude.
It's pretty crazy. And I think what's probably the nicest thing for me to see anyway is it looks like the most well-balanced codex out of a lot of them. Like there's one or two standout detachments in my eyes, but like all of them have legs.
Hmm.
Whereas in multiple of the other ones, like you kind of there's the one standout and then there's like everything else. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's been really nice to see from my as an orc player. So
Yeah, definitely. And we'll go through each of the detachments first and foremost to show everybody what people are going to be looking at. The first one that we're going to have on screen is the War Horde. Now, this one
mm,
is just the index. This is
yeah,
your 10th index.
yep,
I think you were mentioning that there is like one stratagem that got a buff. But everything
yep,
else is pretty much the same.
yep.
So if you played against Orcs, you know what the War Horde is. Don't worry about that. Then we've got the Big Hunt. Now, this one, correct me if I'm wrong, man, this is all about your Beast Snagger boys.
It is all about the bee snaggers. Although ironically, I still think that the bee snaggers probably do better in the index detachment.
Really? Is that just because they love the
Yeah,
sustained hit so much, or is it the detachment rule being. Because I read through it and I'm like, picking one monster vehicle or warlord is like,
yeah.
it's nice,
Um,
but not as
yeah.
nice as you might think, GW riders.
It's this detachment is really propped up by its stratagems and its enhancements, which are both amazing.
Right.
Um, the detachment rules like a letdown. Like if you verse a marine list and they're rucking like one whirlwind and their warlord all the way at the back, you're gonna have to declare one of those every turn as your charge target, which you're like never gonna get to ever.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So
so
that does kind of suck. That does kind of suck.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like the stratagems are amazing. Like there's one of them, Squeakhog Boys have the grenade keyword, and there's one you can basically like scout 9 with your Squeakhogs and then move 10 inches and then grenade strat someone. And then there's also like
Okay.
a stratagem for grenades on the charge roll as well. So you can essentially double grenade something.
Right. It
Um,
feels very similar
yeah,
to what we're going to be doing to people in Retaliation Carter with the grenade racks, where we can fly over somebody, free
yeah,
grenades, use the
yeah,
grenade strat, and then spend a CP to move again, and then free grenades them again for
yeah,
18d6 mortal wounds on a
yeah,
4 up. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So that's the big hunt. Then we got the Cult of Speed, which I was very, very glad to see that at least the Speed Freaks got something in this. Now, I was having a little bit of a read through. What are
Mm.
your first impressions of this detachment? Just in a very broad strokes kind of sense.
This is probably, in my opinion, going to be the weakest of them all.
Okay.
Um, but that being said, it still definitely has some legs. Like if you wanted to go down the war bike route, it definitely has play.
Mm.
Although as a common trend in this codex, you're just going to find that Mega Knobs are going to be the staple in most the detachments.
Right, and that's something that we are definitely going to talk about because
Yeah,
they have been popping up like on everything that we've been seeing. Like we are
yeah,
by no means the first people to get to Orks and be like, "Oh my god, hey guys, have you seen this strong thing?" Okay, and then we're looking at the Dread Mob. Now, this was one that was shown by GW very, very early on,
yeah,
and this one I actually kind of loved. Like I was looking at the
yeah,
detachment rule, and I'll move this so you guys
yeah.
can get a good sort of look at it. And actually, can we zoom in on that just a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's go down here. So you've got try that button where each time a mech, Orcs Walker, or Grot's vehicle, I love that they included the Grot's vehicles because the Grot tank may be the best thing ever. And not saying from a rules perspective, just like Grot's riding a tank is just fucking hilarious. But yeah, so you roll a d6 until the end of the phase. Weapons equipped by models in that unit have the corresponding ability. And I love that this isn't like in your command phase, pick one like the Squighog boys. This is each time one of those do something. 1 to 2 sustain one. 3 to 4 lethal hits, 5 to 6 each time an attack is made with this weapon on a crit wound, improve the EAP by 2. Alternatively, when you is selected to shoot or fight, you can just select an ability and give yourself hazardous. If a weapon equipped by a model already has hazardous, or multiple sources, each time you take a hazardous test, it fails on a 1 or a 2. And importantly, Gretchen get the battle line keyword from this detachment. It's very similar to our Creep, where they get battle lines so that you can start taking more of them. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that would allow you to lean into like a lot of your big walkers and then just have a core backbone of just a shitload of Gretchen that somebody has to
Well, I
chew
mean,
through.
and Gretchen's are OC2, which
Mm.
is the funniest thing ever. Like it's like the fact you can just like have like Gretchen hiding in a walker and then drop out onto an objective and be like, well, now I've got OC40 is really funny.
Yep. The discount
And
breaches.
yep, and I think that this detachment, I think the best parallel that someone's made is it's kind of like the Firestorm Marine detachment.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yep.
actually really strong, but it's like it's gonna go under the radar. But
Okay,
I think it
yeah.
has a lot of legs.
Mm.
Just and there's a few things as well, like so with the pushing the button, just from the wording of the shooting phase, you actually can roll it and then select your target. Because you're chosen to shoot, you roll and then you allocate your attacks.
Very, very good.
So
So you can actually see the effect and decide then if
yeah,
there's like, if you get lethals, okay, cool, I might go into like
yeah,
Termies or, one of these
yeah,
high toughness sort of things. Or if you get sustained hit, cool, I'm going into that other
yeah.
target. Yeah, that's cool. That's
And I
cool.
feel like most of the time, like you're either just gonna RNG it or you're gonna just like complete full throttle. So for example, if you're taking a stomper, you're gonna do full rerolls to hit. You're gonna do if you're hitting on vehicles, you do +1 to wound, +1 damage. You're already taking hazardous on 1 or 2, so you might
Yep.
as well just choose sustained, or you might as well
Yeah,
just
yeah.
choose whatever. So yeah, I feel like it's either going to be an all or nothing kind of approach to the hazardous rolls. But
Yeah,
it's
and
really fun detachment.
I kind
So
of love leaning into that. It's very much like the role that orcs fill in a vacuum of not having Skaven in 40k. They're that real like chaotic, just press it, do whatever, and their law obviously being that like stuff works for them just because so many orcs believe that it will. So even
yeah,
without ammo or fuel or whatever else, it just happens. So
yeah,
I kind of
that's
love
it.
that. So we'll come back and we'll do a bit more of a deep walkthrough of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Now we're getting into the two that have been popping up everywhere.
yeah,
And the first one is Green Tide, which is
yeah,
the Orcs' answer to the new Kroot detachment for Tau. And there has been some ridiculous stuff that I've been seeing
yeah.
from this. And then we've also got the Bully Boys, which
Mm,
from us talking about Meganobs, I've seen what these guys get, especially getting double WAAAGH, which is the bosses watching. Obviously, it
yeah.
only counts for the War Boss knobs and Meganobs. But having said
That's
that,
every unit you care
oh,
about.
yeah,
So,
you fill enough of your list with that, and just like, what other unit? I mean, maybe
well,
there's some Gretchen that don't get it.
Squeak Boss has got the War Boss keyword, so it's even
Oh,
Squeak Hog
okay.
Boys. It's literally everything you care about. So
Right, okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you had to, starting out really, really strong with
yeah.
the vapid empty content that everybody loves, if you had to rank them, What sort of
Mm.
order are you going for? First being the strongest, or going to see the most dominant play from the most number of
Yep.
players, all the way down to like number 5 being it's fun, it's fluffy, play it if you love it, but don't expect to win events with it.
I think that the strongest detachment is or the one that will see the most play, the most dominant is going to be bully boys. Like
Bully boys,
100%,
okay.
it's going to be the most dominant in tournament meta. Just because the double wire is crazy. And everyone's going to be going to that. List dependent, player dependent. Green Tide is going to be a very close second. Green Tide is definitely the team's list. Like
That
if
was
you
my
taking
first
it,
thought as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
it is the team's list. It's better than Swarm Nids in a way, in my opinion. Um, so it kind of fills that role.
So what
Um,
about let's touch on that point. What about the
yeah,
Green Tide makes it better than Swarm Nids? Let's look at first and foremost in a team sort of setting. Like what is it that this
yeah,
brings that the Swarm Nids list doesn't bring? And for anybody that's watching, I say that because the Swarm Nids did very well in team settings, especially with a good captain getting you good matchups.
yeah. Um, so you still get your Blood Surge move
Yep.
as one of the stratagems. So it's a stratagem, but it's just the higher toughness. So things are going to have a harder time killing them for a start.
Okay.
So for example, like anything that's strength 4, which would wound swarm nids on 3s and probably pick up a huge chunk like strength 4 flamers, is going to be now wounding me on 5s,
Right.
which is a pretty huge change there. The other thing as well is that swarm nids kind of hits like a wet fish in melee,
Yes. Yep.
and like I don't know if you've seen some of the stratagems, but in the WAAAGH, the war bosses get 9 attacks each, so they already hit like a truck. Um, but
Yep.
they
Okay.
also
Starting
have
strong.
stratagems for like reroll all wounds. They still get this crazy amounts of resurrections.
Mm,
It's just the profiles are going to be more because the swarm nids you want to get in melee, you want to tag everything, but everything's just going to die anyway. Whereas this,
mm,
it's the same idea, but they actually, are pretty killy. So
okay.
I think that's the difference. And it's just the same thing. The volume of attacks. Everything's going to have a 5 up in Von. Everything's rerolling saves of 1 basically all the time. Half the stuff's going to have a 5 up feel no pain. So it's just going to be
Mm,
really really tanky.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, this is the team's list, but it's also going to do well in solos as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was talking about Chaos Knights, which is a really strong list, and if anyone was at ShyCon recently, fantastic event. I was
Thanks,
running
buddy.
Chaos Knights, and one of the problems I think they'll have is just the volume of
Mm, yep.
attacks just to get out. Um, so yeah, like there's just so many, like 120 boys is like your staple,
Yeah.
and already that's so much
Yeah,
stuff. So
who's got that much volume without specifically teching into it? And it raises
exactly,
a really good question about if we've got Kroot from Tau, we've got Green Tide from Orks, and if to match it, people on like Nids have to run their swarm list because there's nothing else that has a volume to deal with it, and then everybody else starts going volume. I wonder if that then opens up for that real like Giga Chad 5 head Orcs player to go, you know what, Dread Mob. I'm going to dread mob and I'm going to actually tech to be able to take out all of these fuckers. Or like the Death Guard player,
yeah,
like Feud
yeah,
shows up
yeah,
with all of his goddamn flamers and he's like,
yeah,
I will go into any of you. That's no problem.
yeah. But I think what's most scary from a tournament perspective for me, especially in solos,
Mm.
is that Bully Boyd and Green Tide, which are going to be probably the most popular two detachments, have completely opposite counters.
Right.
Like,
Okay. Okay.
which is really like this. You want you want mass low damage attacks. It doesn't matter about the AP because my saves are bad.
Mm.
Whereas Bully Boys, you want quality high damage attacks, because they're multi wound models as well.
Mm.
So it's really interesting in that they're going to have completely different counterplay as well.
Well, I wonder about the Bully Boys because I've been having a look at that, and when we
Mm,
go through the Meganob data sheet, we'll touch
mm,
on that a little bit more. But
mm,
I think I've been looking at it and going, do I want to do what I do for Catans, where I don't actually send a ton of like I will send high damage shooting at them,
Mm.
but it'll be things like I'll pop the Riptide's devastating
Yeah.
wounds to try and get that through. But then outside of that, I will throw 2 units of breaches at them and go, here's 60 plus saves, make your 4-ups, bitch, and if you don't, you're dead. So
Yep.
I wonder, or is there too many layers with the bully boys to
Well,
really
when we
have
see
that be
some
a
of the
strategy?
stratagems, yeah, I'll show you when we see some of the stratagems.
Okay. So let's
So
finish off our tier list. We got Bully
yep,
Boys at number 1. We got Green Tide at number 2, especially
yep,
teams maybe taking that number 1 spot, depending on the
yep,
context we're
yep.
using them in. Then where did the others fit? Dreadmob, Cult of Speed, and Big Hunt. Oh, and
Honest,
Warhorde.
I honestly think the index is 3. Like the index is really strong.
Right, okay.
And not to discount, it just has a -1 to wound strat, just flat -1 to wound, which
Yeah,
is
that has gotten me a
really good.
couple of times. Yeah, that's
It's
nasty.
really good.
Yep.
Um, and the enhancements are amazing. I don't know if anyone remembers, but there's a 4-up feel no pain enhancement. There's a +2 to move enhancement. There's a dev wounds enhancement. Like they're all really good.
Yeah,
It's
because
an
that is
all-round
the
really good detachment.
in order that on screen right now is the Super Cyborg Body, Follow Me
Yep,
Lads, and then Head Whoppers Kill Chopper,
yep.
which is
So I think
just
that's still
yeah.
3. It's still really, really quality. And then honestly, I would put probably Dread Mobs next. Um,
Mm.
Not far behind. It's very left field, but it's definitely got legs. Like it's definitely got play. Um,
So to ask you as like a random sort of thing, when
yeah,
you're looking at the Dread Mob, what is your backbone there? Because you probably do want to have a lot
yeah,
of the mechs and walkers and whatever.
yeah,
What makes up the core of that list that you just run
yeah.
to every single time and then fill in around it?
Killer cans. Yeah,
Killer cans? Okay.
yeah, yeah. Killer cans are definitely the backbone of that. I think Grot tanks getting legends is sad because they were really good, but
Oh,
I
wait, they
think
got
I
legended?
definitely they got legended.
Oh.
But killer cans are still the backbone of this. And any of I would take probably one Titanic unit, whether it be a Gorkanaut, Morkanaut, or Stomper. I would probably lean towards the Gorkanaut as your more
Okay.
well-rounded option, which
Yep.
is the one with the like 30 shot strength 6 gun.
Yeah, so you get that with
Yeah,
either sustained or lethal, and that's ridiculous. Or even, I
and
guess,
+1
any
to
of
hit
them,
as well.
like -2
Yeah,
AP on that thing
yeah,
is nothing to sneeze at, especially if you see a unit that doesn't have an invuln, which, let's be honest, there's not a ton of things really in 10th that are rocking that. Like, Terminators
no,
notwithstanding, all of them getting 4-up invulnerables. Or even
yeah,
just having that extra AP2 to push somebody to, say, a higher invulnerable save. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But honestly, like I know it's left field. I know some people will disagree with me.
Mm,
But I think the Stomper has legs, even at 800 points. I think it can maybe not win a GT, like that's like not be crazy, but
mm,
it's like if you look at the stratagems, reroll all hit rolls, you're hitting on 4s with the mech giving you a buff.
mm.
You know, you can choose sustained, and like it can throw out a lot of damage. And T14 is like maybe not a problem for Tau, but even armies like Chaos Knights, they cap at strength 12.
There is
Like it's really
very
hard.
few things. Yeah, I mean, even
Yeah,
our Seeker missiles, which are some of the best anti-tank that we have, one-shot weapons wounding on 4s is not a place we want to be in. That is
no,
not a place we want to be in.
yeah. And a lot of the very high strength things like knights are in melee. And if you whiff on my, and I have a 2-up save, like I'm coming at you with AP5 damage 10 attacks.
Mm.
Like it's like it's very scary. Yeah. So yeah, T14 is a really weird bracket point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
wounding on some armies are going to deal with it really well, and some armies are just not gonna. It's gonna stat check them.
Yeah,
So
which I feel like you go into a tournament, you never really know who you're going into. So that
no,
means that you can have a dream run where all the players that maybe could deal with you just get
yeah,
paired into somebody else. Happens all the time. And then
yeah,
you've just got this thing absolutely wrecking face against people who don't know how to deal with it. To be honest, if you fielded one of those things, I would just pick the opposite side of the board and just do all my stuff over there. Like, just basically have you eating Kroot for like 3 turns and not moving and then just doing whatever else I do. But I
mm,
haven't versed it before, so I don't know if that actually works for every single thing that I want to avoid the death ball on.
yeah.
All right, so Dread Mob is sitting
Mm,
comfortable middle. We got left the Cult of Speed and
yeah.
the Big Hunt. What's getting bottom of the bracket?
Pete's gonna hate me, but I think,
Do you know
I mean,
he's
it's
already
hard to
typed in
say.
chat?
Yeah. Look, it's a weird place. I think it really just depends what you're into.
Mm,
Like, if you're into Chaos Knights, the Big Hunt is gonna be amazing, right? It's gonna be so much better than Cult of
yeah,
Speed.
yeah,
If you're into Alex's AdMech list, you're gonna want like the Cult of Speed any damn the
yeah,
week.
yeah.
Like, just it has a lot of volume. Bikes are, I think, five shots per bike, I'm pretty sure. And it'll be at neg one twin linked. You can choose them to have sustained or lethal on
Mm,
fives. Like, it's a lot of volume. Um, and I think it's really going to be situational what you play against, but I don't think they're going to be seeing massive GT wins.
mm.
Um,
Mate, maybe you
but
can pull it out and
yeah,
just show the haters that they're wrong. Pull out a
yeah.
GT with it, win with it.
But I think unfortunately the buggies aren't super strong,
Okay.
which maybe everyone's happy about after the
After the
brief
ninth
period in nine.
edition fucking
Yeah, yeah,
PTSD that people would be having from indirect orcs, yeah.
that's it. Yeah. So maybe it's for the best.
Well, just
Maybe it's
as a
for the
real
best.
quick note, because we haven't had a chance to have a look at chat, Beal, Alex, Heppy, Michelle, Pete, Lucas, Red Lofty, how you doing, everybody? Thank you for joining us. If you don't know my beautiful co-host, this is Ben, Mr. Rank 1 CSM himself. Actually, I don't even know if I gave you a proper intro, dude. Why don't you introduce yourself, give some of your tournament credentials before we crack on
Ooh,
with some more of the codex.
tournament credentials. I have been playing competitive orcs since ninth edition, tail end of ninth. Um, and I am part of Team Chadmech, and I've kind of dropped off orcs towards the new codex, but mainly I've been playing them in teams events recently.
Mm.
So I think we came third in um, the Pantheon teams event recently,
Yep.
and my team won the Beachfront Brawl a while back, last year, I think. But aside from that, I've been playing a lot of CSM recently, and I've been trying to crack the new codex, the new points changes. Although now it's a lot better since the points dropped.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Since we had the new data slate,
it was
yeah.
so weird though. The strong stuff got stronger, and the overcosted stuff stayed overcosted. So it
I
was a
haven't made a
really weird.
yeah, I haven't made a video on it yet, but I remember reading through the points update and just being like, wait,
Yeah,
GW, it's been 3 months. Is this it? Like, is this?
yeah.
Are you serious? Are you serious right now,
Yeah,
GW?
it was so weird. Like, the auto for me in CSM, the auto include stuff just became even more auto include,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the stuff that was like, oh, I don't know if I'll take you, just stayed high points.
Even more
So,
relegated.
like, it was so like Legionnaires are already amazing, and then they drop 10 points, and I'm like, okay, well,
Yep,
like,
I'll
okay,
just take an extra unit in my list. Yep, no problem.
yeah, and like Venom Crawlers the same thing. They dropped 10 points, and in my mind, they were already auto include.
Mm,
So yeah,
mm,
really weird. Anyway,
yeah.
we're not here for CSM, so
All right, so let's then go in. So, do Big Hunt and Cult of Speed kind of fit a? It depends what you're going into, and it might be
yeah,
amazing, it might be shit,
yeah,
depending on your pairings. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
so let's have a look for anybody who has been living under a rock. Let's have a look at your army rule, which is WAAAGH. So,
yeah,
on the at the once per battle, at the start of the battle round, you can call a WAAAGH. If you do until the next battle round, the WAAAGH is active for your army, and units with this ability are eligible to declare a charge when they advance. Add +1 strength and attacks characteristic to melee weapons equipped by models in your army, and models from your army with this ability have a 5 up in vulnerable save. That is a lot for a detachment rule. Now,
yep.
yes, it is once per battle, but
Mm,
correct me if this is off base, but I feel like as someone who has been on the receiving end of a couple of wars, uh,
yeah,
once a game is generally all you need to get done what you need
yeah.
to get done. You just have a go turn, and if you set up well, position well, and get a few decent dice rolls, then your game is pretty much set. You don't need any extra stuff.
And I think importantly that a lot of people kind of forget. They're like, oh yes, I'll have this one big go turn, but this +1 strength actually matters a lot in Orcs because it breaks those stat checkpoints. So like base boys go from strength 5 to strength 6, and these snaggers go from base boys go from 4 to 5, and snaggers go from 5 to 6. Power claws go from 9 to 10.
Hmm.
So they reach a lot of those stat checkpoints that most things like normally wouldn't, like they'd be winning on 5s to 4s or 4s to 3s, etc.
Yep.
Or snaggers 3s to 2s. So it actually matters a lot in this go turn that you get what needs to be done.
Hmm. Yep.
And if you bounce in your WAAAGH turn, it's like a death sentence, like pretty much.
Yes. Yes.
On the flip
Any of
side,
the games
yeah,
that I've had against Orcs, if they flub charge rolls, they misposition, they don't think through, and that go turn doesn't go off, I have almost auto won the game. Almost every single time. Because then I can
yep.
move freely and not have hanging over my head this, this dude's going to have like a threat range of like 24 fucking inches. So, yeah, the WAAAGH is probably the biggest thing that any, not even just Tau player, but any player going up against Orcs, you are playing around this until the point that it's
Especially
called.
shooting armies, more so than most.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Especially shooting armies. You got to be really careful, and you got to be careful how you position, because if you come too near the middle, you're just, you could just slingshot me straight into your backfield by
Mm,
giving me easy turn 1 charges.
yep.
Because it's not very common for me to call WAR on the first turn, because
Yeah,
it's
I feel
risky,
like
right? You don't
somebody's
want to
got
be
to
going
fuck
for
up
those
doing
9
that.
inches charges. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's
Um,
really got to fuck up to give you things to slingshot off. But then in any of the games that I've had, if you've got only 1 or 2, generally if you're going to slingshot, you'll probably do it anyway, just without the wire, and just
yes,
get to more of
100%.
an advantageous position to apply more
100%.
pressure. And if anybody's interested about what we're talking about, slingshotting and staging and all that sort of stuff, go and watch after this my stream where I talk about melee defense. We actually had Ben in the chat for that, throwing out a bunch of like hot tips about do this, do that, do whatever. Michelle, Alex Anglazos is one of the highest ranked AdMech players in the world. Yes, he's joking. He is absolutely memeing and being a troll. So let's talk about a few of the things. Let's zone in on Bully Boys first and foremost.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before that there are some really great stratagems. So I want to kind of zoom in on those and go through them. So let's look at Arm to the Teeth first. So this one is Knobs or Mega Knobs unit, shooting or fight phase until the end of the phase. Each time you make an attack reroll, a hit roll of 1. If Y is active, just full rerolls to hit.
Yep.
Now, in terms of data sheets, because we haven't reviewed those yet, does this affect a lot of the units very, very heavily? In a certain way, like if I did this for like Sunforged suits or Riptides, rerolls to hit is hugely impactful.
Yeah, it's massively impactful. Mega Knobs and Knobs with Power Claws have a base weapon skill of 4. So rerolling all hit rolls is kind of crazy. They'll go up to hitting on 3s because they get +1 to hit from the character. But even then,
Okay.
because they have what you'll note when we go through some of the data sheets is they're going to have a volume issue. So the quality of attacks is going to be very, very good. But the actual volume of what they're going to convert is not going to be super high. Purely from if you're maxing Mega Knobs in the WAR, they get 3 attacks each. So that's with their +1 attacks.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, so it's so this is a very important stratagem purely because if you miss 6 of those attacks just because you're hitting on 3s,
Oh, that's huge.
that's actually a massive problem.
Yeah. So I'm assuming they're really high damage on those attacks then, because I was just thinking about that. And after playing my Grey Knights a lot recently for coaching games, all of my basic boys have 3 attacks each. Terminators having 4 each.
Yes.
So hearing that you need the WAR to get to that 3 attack point, I'm assuming they're like damage 3 or 4 each, at least.
Only damage 2.
Only damage 2?
Only damage 2. AP3 damage 2.
AP3 is a nice breakpoint. That fucks over a lot of people.
And I think kill saws are the option. So the options is Power Claws, which you don't get twin linked. But also damage 2, but only neg 2.
Actually, you know what? Let's scroll down to the Mega Knobs. I think
just bring them up.
I think context is important here, and having numbers in front of us will be good. Commandos, wall bikers, truck, Def Dread. I think I might have gone too far down. Yours is probably where all the other infantry is. Looters, flash gits, tank busters, Mega Knobs. Here we go. All right, so
Alright.
let's have a look at these boys. So what you're talking about, we got a kill saw, power claw, or twin kill saws. So,
Yes.
oh, that's the part I was missing. Strength 12 and 9. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
you're
they
probably
go
going to
wounding
convert
land
on the
raiders
wound
on
roll.
threes.
It's the hit
Yeah.
roll you need to convert on.
Yes. And they're twin linked as well. If you go twin
Mm.
kill source.
So you wouldn't look at the power claws going from attack 3 attacks to 4 attacks?
I wouldn't, purely because you're gonna have knobs with power claws anyway.
Okay.
Your AP is lower, so you're gonna struggle into anything with mass 2-up saves.
Okay. Yep.
And the other problem as well is Mega Knobs kill Land Raiders, Power Claws don't.
Ah,
um,
okay. Okay. Gotcha.
and it's that, or Big Knights, same thing. Like Mega Knobs tear apart Big Knights. Normal Knobs, it's swingy.
Right, that
So I
strength
think you
12 as
would, yeah,
opposed to 9 is
it's
pretty
massive.
huge. And going from 9 to 10 doesn't actually do as much unless you're going into like dedicated
No.
transports. Whereas
And this will
12
go
to
12 to
13,
13.
yeah, even into your big knights, that's wounding on 3s. That's insane.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And
okay.
one of the squads will be led by Gaz, so winning on 2s.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
So when we look at these guys, especially in the context of Bully Boys, the first thing I want to point out is this ability that my eyes just read really quickly. Then,
Yes.
during the battle round in which you call a war, models have a 4-up feel no pain on a T6 2-up armor 3 wound set of bodies.
And how many
That's
wars do you get as well?
You get 2 as Bully Boys, so you have 2 turns of 4-up
No,
feel no pains.
2 battle rounds.
Sorry, 2 battle rounds. So it's
Yeah.
not even like you can really effectively bait out the war and then just
No.
throw everything into them and try and, to borrow a phrase, crump them. They're just going to do it again to you the next round.
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
oh my god. And they've got advance and charge. And they've got +1 strength and attack. As well as a 5-up invulnerable save, which don't discount how much a 5-up invulnerable save can actually do. That's what Terminators used to have in 9th, and people were still taking them.
And what's going to make you even more angry is when you see they are 30 points per model.
Oh, that is so gross. Oh my god. So you take a 3-man unit and it's 90 points.
Yep. And so everyone's going to just be taking 6-man units.
That is a breacher squad. That
Yep.
is, oh my god.
Yep. So, like, minimum you're looking at
GW, what
12
have you
Mega
done?
Yeah.
Yep, so 6-man squads.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yep.
because I would pay 180 points for that. Even if it wasn't in Bully Boys, like a 4-up feel no pain on your war turn,
Yep.
where that is your go turn and you want to mitigate the clapback as much as you can. Yeah,
And
okay.
we'll get to it when we talk to some of the other detachments, but they're just going to be a staple in most of the detachments. Like, for example, in Cult of Speed, there's an enhancement where you can, it's like assault ramp on the Land Raider.
Oh, yeah.
But because they only move 5 inches, like a 12-inch move on a truck is massive.
Yeah.
So things like that, they just randomly are good in all the detachments. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean,
So
Alex?
anyway.
Watch my language. Were you looking for an bitch? But yeah, okay, so I can see what everybody's talking about, and obviously, like, grenades keyword is just cherry on top, because that would help a little bit with the output problem into certain things. If you can just layer some mortal wounds, then you're like, cool, you're in kill range. Before, maybe I was going to cripple you. Now I actually have a good chance of killing you.
So while we're on this data sheet, what I would like to point out, and probably this army's weak point, is if you're, let's say, theory crafting, you're running 18 mega knobs and the characters, you're already looking at 700 points, assuming you take Gaz.
Okay.
700 points ish. Then you're taking knobs and characters, you're already looking at 1,200 points minimum. And then you're taking transports. So far, this so far has a total army objective control of like 30.
Yep.
So now you kind
Okay.
of see where the problem starts, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I think the worst lists, or like the lists that aren't as good, are just purely going to max out on mega knobs and knobs, and then they're actually just going to lose because they can't hold anything.
Okay.
Like if you have 6 mega knobs and a character on an objective, like you could just walk 10 breaches on, stand in front of them, and be like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, even if I don't kill you, I still control this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you just stand in front, and
j-
even OC1 models, you'll just be able to move a 10-man squad on and be like, okay, you can't hold it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's funny you mentioned that because I had a similar thing where I was building a retaliation Carter list on stream. And a lot of Tau players have been doing the same thing with early lists where I've been seeing everybody just jamming nothing but crisis suits. And then they've got
yep,
no room for anything else. And I'm like, hey,
yep,
like, what are you guys doing? And my list ended up being a lot of like Kroot, Trail Shaper, Dark Strider, Pathfinders, and then Riptides and a few Crisis units and whatever else.
yep,
But I had tons of mission play, then uh baked into a list that still hits quite hard and does the thing that I want it to do, but
yep,
doesn't go down this skew route that you
yeah.
can't get away with unless you're in a team environment where your captain's specifically playing around that massive weakness.
And so, I mean, based off that, the better lists are just going to have boys in as well. Even though,
Okay.
so if you go back to the stratagems, every stratagem is only for mega knobs and knobs. There is no
Right.
stratagems that
Okay.
affects anything else.
Well, let's go back
Um,
up to that because that is an excellent point. We are bully boys. Yep. So knobs, mega knobs, knobs, mega knobs, knobs, mega knobs. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I'm seeing a pattern.
So, but the better list will definitely have boys because you need the sticky objectives because you need things to move off and you need to actually hold objectives, and boys are OC2.
Yep. Yep.
So the better lists have to run boys or they're just going to lose on primary.
Yeah. Okay. That
Um,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah. Um, the other stratagems in this which are really good is there's a flat 6-inch consolidation move,
So
and
let's have a
always
look
looking for a
at
fight.
always
Bottom
looking
left.
for a fight. Yep. So that is 1 CP fight phase just after an enemy unit is destroyed. Consolidate.
Yep.
D3 plus 3 instead of 3. If a WAAAGH is active, you just go 6.
Yep.
That's really good. That's really, really good.
And so one of the combos you can look at kind of is you kill something, you use that, you move your flat 6, and then in the next turn, if you've got your second war, there's another one which forces a desperate escape if they want to fall back.
Yeah, that's cut them down. So
Yep.
opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit is selected to fall back. Knob's a mega knob that is within engagement range of that unit. When that enemy unit falls back, all models must make a desperate escape. Doing so in a WAR is subtract 1 from those tests. So that
Yep.
means, what's that on a 1, 2, or 3? A model's
You
destroyed.
just die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's something like you tag something, and then you're like, you got a big 10-man squad of knobs. You're like, cool, 6-inch, I'll tag everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you really want to fall back? And like an army, like even like Gladius, that wants to fall back and shoot, it's like, well, do I actually want to fall back and shoot and
Yep.
just lose
Yep.
a third of my model, a half my models? Like,
Oh, dude, this is something I've been coaching a lot
yeah,
recently. Is there's a lot of players that don't have their units spaced out 4 inches apart, and they go, "Oh, I'll be 3 apart," and it's like, no, dude,
yeah,
someone's within engagement range of you when they're within
yeah,
an inch. They can
yeah,
consolidate 3 inches if it lands them in engagement range, not base to base. So you need to have
yeah,
this 4 inch spread on all of your
yeah,
units. Otherwise, you risk just a chain reaction of bad touch all through a bunch of units you don't want to do. That is
yeah.
very powerful. That is very, very powerful. Are there any other strats that you want to call out before we move on to an example of a list that you would run for the Orks? For the Bully
Yeah.
Boys, sorry.
Um, yeah, I mean, they have a grenades in melee, which is good. But the other one that I would like to mention is they have armor of contempt.
That is Hulking Brutes. Opponent shooting
Yeah.
phase until the end of the phase, just worsen AP by 1.
And so even if you're not in the war, you can AOC and go to ground or whatever on your mega knobs, and AP2 is AP0.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, I feel
So that's
like
the thing,
so Tau is going to do a little bit better into this for all of
because you
my
ignore cover.
regular viewers because Marklight ignores cover, but there are not a ton of armies running around with a shitload of ignore cover, especially not on guns that they really want to be targeting
No.
these Meganobs with.
And there's not
So
much that's stronger than AP2 either.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
like you're starting to get into like melter territory at that point.
Yeah. Like las cannons are only AP3, and I'd
Yeah,
be getting
yeah.
3 ups. Like,
That's
Like,
that's fucking wild.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's yeah,
okay. So
they're
saving
really good
las cannons on
strats.
3-ups. Love it. Love it.
The only other thing as well is the auto included enhancement
Oh yeah,
is
let's have a look at that. Yep.
you can give Mega Nobs Deep Strike.
The teleporter.
Yeah. So that's auto include, right? Because it solves their movement problems, and you just
Yep.
rapid ingress them and
Yep.
get an easy charge.
Rapid ingress, have them just behind, like, because all your boys are infantry, so you don't have the far sight problem where I've got to run around a building and think about that.
No.
But yeah, just rapid ingress into a building, walk forward, cut that charge by 5 inches, boom, good to go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this is especially important when you're going into players that aren't like your very like top level players that are constantly screening every part that they can and making sure that
Yep.
there are no good rapid ingress points. The second you see an opening, boom, I'm in there. And especially with worsen by 1, if you rapid ingress, even if there's a unit that can shoot you, you just kind of go, okay, cool, like you can shoot at them, dude. You probably won't kill one. If you do, cool, but I've still got 5 more boys and a war boss about to run in.
Yeah. And
Okay.
probably a feel no pain as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so let's bring
so
up
scary. Really scary.
Yeah. Let's bring up an example list that you sent before that you would use. And how do I full screen this bitch? I'm going to assume it's like this. Oh, you love to see it. Professional. All right. So we have, and that is 100% not working because there's a bunch of stuff in the road. So while I make our cameras a little bit smaller so everybody can see, we're about to shrink, Ben. You're about to, honey, I shrunk the kids. So let's put that chat just up in there. There you go, boys. You're up next to the war boss. All right, so walk us through this list. Yeah.
As well, I made this with index points. Just a vague guess on the points, which is actually pretty close. Just the Squeakhog boys went up a little. But that's pretty much it.
If I remember, you actually factored in for potential increases because I think you sent this list to me at like 1975. So what has it gone up to with the Squeakhog boys going up a little bit?
It's gone up to 1990, so I've just lost the enhancement.
That's almost perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through this. Let's start with the big boy himself, Gazkul. What does he bring for your bully boys?
So actually a really good profile now. He got buffed, so he got a sweep attack. And it's kind of funny because he gives the squad +1 to hit, +1 to wound. So his sweep attack's mostly going to be wounding on 2s, even though it's strength 8, or at least 3s or 4s. And it's neg2 damage 2. So it's pretty good.
Okay.
He also gives an aura of lethal hits in the WAAAGH. And his squad gets it on 5s. So that's going to be important for the knobs, but the mega knobs, I guess, not so much because they're just going to be twin linked anyway.
So is the range of that aura 6 inches?
9 inches from Makari, I think, or it might be 6 inches. I can't remember.
Okay,
but it's from Makari.
Yep. Okay.
He also brings some OC as well. So that unit, him and Makari is OC 5 together.
Oh wow. Okay. So even if you
sorry,
kill
it's
off the
12
full
inches
unit,
from Makari. That's it.
12 from Makari.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's big, and I was already using it. And Gaz got buffed, so it's just better. Like it's,
okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And then you've got Boss Snickrod in here. What does he give you?
So he's going to be auto include in like almost every orc list. So the main change he got in the codex is he got lone operative. And he also got the smoke keyword for unknown reasons, but he got lone op. And why that's good is because he also has like the Calidus uppy downy once per game, but it's in my movement phase. So basically I can have him on
you got
the
the Vespid treatment. That's exactly what Vespid have, and we hate it. We don't take them because of it.
Oh, well, I like it because I could draw it because I'm normally going tactical with bully boys, and I get investigate signals, and I go, cool, I'll just chuck them in the corner and do it.
I guess that makes sense. Action. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now, it might not be Vespid because ours, they go back into Deep Strike. Is yours just relocate him somewhere on the board?
Ours is just full relocate. It's
just that's so good. If Vespid have that, I would take 3 units of them. 100%, that is sick. Just one quick thing. Giga Chad Makari Super chatted $5. Gazzy is the biggest and the best. Wow. Now
Yeah,
you know what? You know what? I think I can
he
do that
is.
better. I think I can do that
He is
better.
the biggest and the best.
I apologize for your ears and everybody else. Gazzy is the biggest and the best. Whoa! I'm gonna go
That was good.
apologize to my wife after. Thank you, thank you. I
Yeah, I like that.
actually do a little bit of voice acting on the side, so it's good to know I haven't lost it completely.
No, haven't lost it at all.
Thank you very much, Giga Chat and Makari. Appreciate the super chat. All right, so Boss Necrot, you were talking about your uppy downy
It's good.
in the movement phase,
Movement
which
phase.
means you've got a lot of
Yeah.
control over it. Is there anything else, or is it just that combination of lone op and a dedicated do what I want when I want?
Yeah, look, I think commandos are pretty overcosted still.
Okay.
So I think you just take, even if you take commandos, I still just take him on his own.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, because commandos don't have lone op, so they don't go together well.
Yeah,
Um,
and I guess getting him into a tiny little place through screens is so much easier than then
yes,
also adding 5 other bases on top of it.
no, 10 other bases.
10. Oh, fuck
Yeah,
that. Yeah, take him alone.
yeah,
You
yeah,
want to
yeah,
sneak that investigate signals just
yeah, yeah,
immediately. Cuz who is
yeah,
going to have the bodies to be able to screen that off except for like
yeah.
Green Tide or Crude?
Or even on something like ritual, you just make an objective or just cleanse an objective. Like it's
Mm.
just
Yep.
that easy little action monkey. Yeah. So I think he'll be auto include, especially in something like this that really wants those action monkeys. Um, so for the same point, that's why I've got the Grots in. I think I put three
Mm.
squads of Grots in.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, just the same thing because you're lacking that objective control, and the fact I can just throw Grots on objectives. Um, Another thing you could change if you had points, like I just sub them out for boys. Like it doesn't matter, just that
Mm.
objective control.
Well, yeah, I find
It's the
that
same
any
thing.
list like this, especially avoiding a skew list, I have found with like Retaliation Carter, for example, I needed to have stuff that I could trade turn 1 and 2. I don't want to be trading crisis suits turn one and
Oh,
two.
100%.
They,
Yeah, yeah,
like you need something else that can walk out, even if it's one of your initial guiders. You go, cool,
yeah.
I get my turn 1 guiding, you're gonna die, that's fine, but he has to send something out here to trade into me.
And it's really interesting you said that because I've got that exact unit. And that is 6 Squeakhog boys and the War Boss on Squeak.
Yep, yep.
So and they're just that stat check, right? They're T7. They've got to feel no pain. They're sufficiently annoying,
Mm,
and they still get the double WAAAGH. They just
that's
don't get
so
any
good.
stratagem support.
That's so
And
good.
the reason I put them in is also they solve a big problem in this list, in my opinion, is the volume. So the Squeakhog boys get 7 attacks each in the WAAAGH. So they
Right.
they really make up for the lack of output.
Mm.
Like 7 attacks each in a 6 minute. So you're looking at 45 attacks. Like you just clean up, right?
God
Whatever their
damn.
chaff is. And with a 10-inch move as well, like if they're doing aggressive screening, you just clean up their screens.
Yeah,
So yeah, I,
okay.
I think that's why I've got them in there, but easily like you could sub it for 3 squads of boys or whatever. Like it's
No,
you know,
I
great.
like that sort of thinking because you're adding a stat check trading
Yeah,
piece where somebody like you have to commit onto that to actually get through
yeah,
them and kill them. Because if you
yeah,
undercommit, then all of a sudden that thing which is well closer to you just goes, okay, cool,
yeah,
I'm going to tag team. They run forward, start charging all your stuff, tagging up all your shooting units, and then the Meganobs walk out and go, cool, well, if you don't have fallback and shoot there, I can stand here because I know you can't get to me to shoot me. So
yeah,
now I exist on this point and I'm about to charge that next turn if you can't
yeah.
deal with those squig hogs that are on you. So no, that's a great little bit of tech.
I think as well they got a side grade, which is important to mention. So the boss and smasher squeak now joins the squad, which is good because it's like an extra blade of 4 wounds.
Yep.
But what they lost is they lost their +1 to hit. So they're now hitting on 3s and 4s as opposed to 2s and 3s,
Okay.
which is significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other side grade is the Mozrog and the Beast Boss and Squig now are leaders. They're not single characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so their feel no pain got slightly worse. Their toughness got reduced, and their wounds got reduced. But now, you have to get through freaking like 20 wounds of Squighog boys to touch them. So,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
it is a little bit of swings and roundabouts.
yeah,
I think the reductions in some of those stats make sense if you're then throwing them into
yes,
a unit that you've
yeah.
got to get through first.
And the other thing is the Beast Boss and Squig is just flat better than Mozrog, in my opinion now.
Right.
What
Okay.
he brings is +1 to charge, which is already amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, a 0 CP heroic intervene that you can use on multiple squads.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. That's pretty
So
insane.
if you were running 2 squads of these, probably in the Snagger detachment, you could heroic both of them for free. And with
Right.
+1 to charge, you're looking at a 5-inch charge maximum because you have to be within 6.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
so good.
like it's really good. So yeah, that's that.
Mm.
And then aside from that, the reason why you'll notice I've only got 1 transport is because Gaz can't get into any
Oh, that
transports.
actually might be the screen not showing properly. There should
Oh, okay.
be three. Oh my god! Yep, I
1 truck.
forgot. I reduced the screen. Let's
That's fine.
professional here, ladies and gentlemen. Professional. So there
3
we go.
trucks. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 3 trucks total.
Yep.
But 2 of them are for the knobs,
Yep.
which are going to be like min size or maybe I've got 3. I've got 3 squads of knobs, so they're all for the knobs.
Yep.
The reason I've got 3 squads of knobs is you've got double WAAAGH, and again, you don't want to be maxing out on all the knobs because you're going to lose that objective control in the long run.
Yep.
And the war boss is going to carry that unit a lot with 9 attacks in the WAAAGH. Like that's just because he gets +5 attacks instead of +1.
Right. Yep.
So he goes from 4 to 9, and you get 2 turns of 9. So he's basically like 3 knobs in one, and they're going to have a cooked in like Lich Guard -1 to wind. So, pretty good, pretty good. So that's just that. But the Mega Knob's just on foot. One of them hopefully deep strikes, and the other one, Gaz can't get into transport anyway, so you're just gonna have to walk them up the field.
Mm.
But what I've found is like turn 1 you get a pretty good advance, you're in a building, and then turn 2 you don't care because you got a 4-up feel no pain. So you're just gonna just send it
Right. Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Like if you're getting through 6 knobs with a 2-up, like 5-up, 4-up feel no pain, like you're in trouble. Like they've got some output. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I honestly I wouldn't even waste a truck on them. I would just advance them up.
Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot
Yeah.
of pieces in this that seem to fit together quite well. And the more I look at the list, the more I actually really love those Squighog boys more and more. Because,
Yeah.
yes, it's a 250 point investment for what is a trading unit. They're getting some of the benefit out of the detachment and everything else. But what the role that they're filling to keep all of this other stuff that's going to be behind them is just
Mm.
yeah, just I
And the
love
OC
having
2 and
little
3
tech
as well.
units like
So
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and they actually give you some OC. And the funniest thing is now the unit is so big, it's like 9 dudes. You can actually string them across like 3 objectives and stay in coherency. Like
Holy
it's
shit.
ridiculous. Like it's massive. Like it's
Okay.
which is worth noting in the Beast Snagger one, when they scout move, they can just like cover the whole board and just
That's
like have
so
an
good.
angle and
That's
everything.
so
Yeah.
good. Now, that's something
Yeah.
that I want to touch on because with a
Mm,
lot of the Tau stuff that we've been doing lately,
mm.
playing the counter infiltrate, counter scout game is super important.
Yep.
So I think that this is going to put more of an emphasis on some of the stuff that we've already been looking at, which is the
Yep.
Crute fast stalkers that can, deploy 9 inches off your deployment zone, and then just with the trail shaper, just redeploy wherever we want after we find out who goes first. And the sort of the interactions there are that when we find out who goes first, the controlling player resolves their pre-game abilities first, and then
Yep.
we resolve ours. So it means that you can fully shut down a scout move. And it'll be even more important because those Squighog boys getting up the field, if they've got a scout and move, they are significantly
Yep.
further up the board. If they've
And
only got a move, you've got to make some hard choices as the controlling player.
And I think in this detachment in particular, that infiltrate's going to be massive because I don't have a scout move
Yep.
in this detachment. Um, so yeah, and you
Yeah.
want to just try keep me deployment zone locked with my low, you know.
Yeah,
low objective control on my
and
low
as we've
unit.
sort of been talking about this, I've been thinking more and more about the Kroot detachment, and I guess this will feed nicely into us talking about the Green Tide next. Uh that, if I can keep you locked in a tiny little center, yes, you've got some deep strike boys, but I'm a good enough player that I can screen effectively, especially when I've got enough bodies. And even if I'm not killing you super well, I'm still holding you at a point where you're not scoring
Mm.
points, which is, so many people seem to forget that this game is about scoring points. It's not actually about who kills what. Who kills what just makes the game slightly easier if you're killing the right things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a big thing on it. And let's talk about some of the, your Kroot, which is the Green Tide. So,
I think, yeah. So with this one, I think similar to Swarm Nids, it's going to definitely be a higher skill cap army, but I think it has a much higher potential as well.
mm, mm.
And I
So,
think it is the teams list. Like,
So
yeah,
let's have a look at what you get. So mob mentality is your detachment rule. You're getting a
yep,
5 up invulnerable save for any of
yep.
your boys that have that keyword. In
It's
addition,
just boys. That's it. Like the
just
only thing with
boys.
the boys keyword is boys. That's it.
Storm boys don't get it.
No, I don't think so. Not from
Really?
memory. I think it's
I'm
literally just boys.
yeah, okay. That feels kind of bad then, because add a storm on and you're not a boy anymore. That's a
I'll
rough
double
trot.
check for you,
That's a
but
rough trot. Yeah, have a look to see if it's got the keyword. In addition, each time an attack targets an Orks unit from your army, if it contains 10 or more models, reroll a saving throw of 1 made against that attack.
yeah,
Now, the unfortunate thing is the fast rolling issue where we will fast roll to make things go a little bit quicker on a Green Tide Kroot Nid Swarm detachment. Time is actually a really big factor because you've got so many things to
yeah,
move and do.
yeah.
And you will actually hit a point where you've actually got to start slow rolling these. Now, you will be able to do like, all right, I'll roll, if I've got a 20 boys unit, I'll roll 10 at a time, because all of these will have reroll ones to save, and then keep doing that until you get to the point that you might dip below that 10 men, because it will go model to model and attack by attack, because they are technically resolved one at a time.
I think I heard something on this that it would be because one unit attacks at once and I receive the wounds at once. It's until a unit attacks me and I'm under 10 models, then I retain my save one.
I know.
So
So
if I have
each
with what
attack is
I
actually resolved one by one. Where people get confused is that you allocate all your attacks at once, and that can't be disrupted. You allocate them all at the start of, before anybody in a unit makes an attack. But shooting attacks and melee attacks, because you know how we can allocate to certain units that are on terrain? It's a very similar thing with this, where one by one, we can get better saves, we can get better whatever, put it on somebody's got an invulnerable save, okay, he's dead, now I'm going to take it on armor saves. So you actually do have to go one at a time in order to resolve these things. And my gut instinct as a TO is that this will be the same thing, where, you have to resolve one at a time until you get to the point that you don't have those 10 anymore.
yeah, I mean
Though, if
it'll
you do
be
find a reference for
either
that,
way.
for a precedent,
I mean
absolutely
either way.
send it
I
through.
I will I will double check that
Mm.
in my own time
Yep.
because I've definitely heard both ways. But regardless, I think rerolling saves of one is helpful, but I think it doesn't make or break this detachment. Just the
Yeah,
5 up
I would
invulnerable all the
agree.
time
Yeah.
is what um makes it so good. Because most of the time it's going to be fives. Oh, I failed two. I get two ones. I reroll like whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
honestly, I've actually played a game of Green Tide already today, and
Oh, how'd it go?
it was. I mean, it's the 10-10 army. I went slightly up. It was into Vanguard
Mm-hmm.
Marines. Um, but its stratagems are really good. And I didn't shoot
Okay.
my army once. I just skipped my shooting phase. I went boop, killed it.
That's
Do
what
I
I
want to
do with
charge?
my fight phase. I do not care. I am not going to get attacks through unless it's Commander Farsight. I don't give a shit about my
Yeah.
attacks. All right,
Yeah.
so speaking of those enhancements, now that we've covered the detachment
Yes.
rule, let's go through some. Give me your number one. What is the thing that you are going to spend CP on out of anything, like 90% of the time?
Well, there is a blood surge, which is amazing. Called Go Get 'em. and it
Okay.
couples well with a few things. So, firstly, is you basically need to stay, unless you want to get tagged, or you can wipe me under 10 models in one activation,
Mm.
you have to stay 7 inches away from me.
Oh.
Because if you step in that 7 inches, I auto move 6 into you. And then suddenly I'm in melee with your whole army. So, something that you could do, for example, is you could weird boy jump, you could string 20 boys across,
Mm.
and then you move anything within 7, I'm tagging you the second you shoot me. And then
Mm.
because I'm infantry, now you can't shoot me again.
Yep.
So it's there's definitely some jank you can do with that, which is amazing. But the other really good one is Come On Lads, and it's just a return D3+2 destroyed models.
D3 plus 2.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
god.
but why that's good is a few reasons. So firstly, it's in your command phase.
Okay.
So even if you're just on average resing 2, you get 4 back. But then on top of that, there's a Pain Boy Resurrect you can do once per game, which is an additional D3.
Okay.
So you can res 2 D3 plus 2, get 6 boys back on average,
Mm.
and then suddenly you're above 10, you don't need a battle shock test, and you brought 12 OC back on the objective.
And there's also a little bit of jank that some things do where when you're bringing stuff back, you can position them within
Yes,
coherency in certain
yes,
directions to make charges a little bit closer or,
yes.
get in range of whatever you need to. So there's a lot of skill expression in
Yep.
that as well with these sort of stratagems.
And you can if you're off an objective, you can res onto an objective in your command phase, then you're going to hold it in your command phase, and now it's sticky and I can walk off it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So like so much jank you can pull. Like it's yeah. Um, but perhaps my favorite stratagem is there is one called, I think it is Tide of Muscle.
Tide of muscle. Yep. Boys unit that is not declared a charge. Add the current battle round number to the charge roll.
Now
Man,
that is ludicrous.
even even
Like
even like let's say your go turn is turn 2, which I
plus 2
think
to
turn
charge.
2 turn 3 is kind of the median orc go turn.
Yep.
+2 or +3 to charge. That's some Kaldor Drago shit as a once per game ability. Even turn
And this
1,
is yeah.
+1 to charge. Speaking
Yeah.
Grey Knights again, that is one of the enhancements that we take to give ourselves +1 to charge out of Deep Strike or whatever.
Yep.
And you're just paying a casual CP for it.
Yep. And keep in mind my grots are farming me CP every turn.
Yes.
So I will probably have at least 2 CP in my first turn. Um and like let me just paint a scenario, right? As
Mm.
battle round 5, I draw capture enemy outpost. I'm on the other side of the board. I'm like, oh, what do I do? I can jump a squad with a weird boy and make a 4-inch charge onto your home objective.
Yep. Yep. Now, you've mentioned that a couple of times, and I
Yep.
do want to go down to the weird boy and
Yeah,
actually
bring
have
up
a
the
look at
weird
that
boy.
because I feel like you mentioning him a couple of times might
Yeah.
show a little bit of, like that enabling sort of character that I
Yep.
kind of love to throw into a list. So,
Yep.
Pain Boss, weird boy, there we go. So, let's move across
And
to him.
he previously in the war horde, people were just running him on his own and
Right,
just using
okay.
him as the same thing as Snickrot. They were just using him as an action monkey, just like 2 up, cool, I can teleport wherever I want. Deep
Yeah,
cleanse,
yeah,
deep
yeah, yeah.
cleanse, do this.
Yep.
Um,
Which again, small base, very hard to screen out from. And on top of that, you lose one character if they're not going assassinate. Who gives a shit?
I mean, this list gives up 40. Well, one of the lists I wrote gives up 40 points in assassinate.
Well, I was
Like,
meaning
you're
in the
just
context of
yeah,
ninth, but
yes.
that is
But in
that
this,
is wild. When we bring that up, I am absolutely going to talk about that.
yeah. I mean, like you're just maxing characters in this.
Mm.
But if you so if we bring up the weird boy,
Yep. So we've got to jump, Psychic.
That's the one.
Once per turn, at the end of your movement phase, one weird boy from your army can use this ability. If it does, roll a d6. On a 1, that weird boy's unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. On a 2+, remove it from the battlefield, set it up again anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy models. Now,
Yep.
this one I feel like is really cool. One that they said that it's at the end of your movement phase. So you can't
Yes.
roll this stuff early and be like, oh, well, I didn't make it, so therefore I'll send this unit. You've got to make choices with your other
Yes.
units first, then work out whether you roll a 1. So that's really, really cool. Second, this is probably the most thematic thing that I've seen from Orks. That is so fucking cool.
Yeah. And if you read their other ability, it's even more funny because you're just running these guys in squads of 20.
Yep, so while it's leading, add 1 to the strength and damage characteristic for every 5 models in the unit, rounding down. While that unit contains 10 or more, the weapon has hazardous. So this is the Ed Banger. So you're getting a 24-inch single-shot precision that will be strength 10, damage 5?
Yeah.
Oh my god! So you're just gonna one-tap so many characters!
I mean, and it's neg 3 as well. So many things are going to be on like a 5-up. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I guess you just die.
That's actually so good. And you got 3 of these
I mean,
fuckers running around in one of your lists.
Yeah, I think most lists will have 3 of these guys. Like,
That's
I think it's just
insane.
so much utility. Like, like unlike a lot of lists that, like Swarm Knits, another example, like they just want to kind of screen out the gargoyle, redeploy, or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like in this, you literally can't kind of let your backfield go because suddenly there'll just be 20 boys there.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
really scary.
Yeah, okay. So these guys have some not negligible abilities, and you're chucking these in with 60 bodies. Well, 3 of them in with 60 bodies. 20
Yep.
apiece.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
If somebody doesn't know how to screen and you fuck up and let these in your backfield turn 1,
Yep.
oh, you are going to have such a bad time. Oh my god. And then just spend a CP and they're +1 to charge. So roll an 8.
Yep.
And if you've got 2 CP, you've got 1 in the back pocket for reroll charges.
Yeah, it's really spooky. Like there's just like there's so much, and and what's even more scary is if you fail the charge,
Mm.
then you can't move within 7 because I just blood surge into you.
All right, so that one I want to go over for anybody that isn't familiar with what blood surging is or what we were talking about. So Go Get 'em is a boys unit from your army that was just selected as the target of one or more of those attacks. After the attacking unit has shot, your unit can make a move. To do so, roll a d6. Each model in a unit moves a distance up to the result, but your unit must end that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. So also bear in mind that you could inadvertently have one dude shooting and then send it into a unit that you weren't tracking because they are the closest enemy unit.
Yep. But the other thing as well is it works similar to, I don't know if you are familiar with like Tyranid's Carnifex Blood Surge.
Oh, yeah.
That only one model has to be, the whole unit, if one model ends up in engagement range, the rest of the unit can just move wherever the hell it wants.
Yep.
Because it's moved closer.
Yep.
So you can actually, as long as one model gets to the closest, you could tag like 6 units. And
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Yep. And then if they're not base to base, you've also got pile-in moves after that to go an extra 3.
Yes.
Which is just, so,
Yeah.
and this is the other part that Ben was talking about. When doing so, those models can be moved within engagement range of that enemy unit. If your unit contains 10 or more models, it just goes flat 6. So that's what Ben was saying, that, if you can't get him below 10, it's a guaranteed 6. But even then, if it's less than 10, a D6 still going to D6. Like, a free 5-inch move is great. A free 3-inch move is great.
And there's not, considering everything has a 5-up invuln, there's not that much that's going to get me under in one activation. Keep that in mind. It has to be in one activation.
Yep.
There's not that much that can do it.
Yep.
Like even flamers, a lot of them are strength 4.
Yep.
So a lot of them are winning me on 5s, and if they haven't done it in a single activation, if you just leave me on 10, like it doesn't matter. Like it's So, and I just pull from the back. Like it doesn't affect my movement at all.
Yeah, so I feel like the thing that I would put into that would be definitely a breacher squad, and I would have them at like the extremity of 10 inches. They will be like to the millimeter 10 inches or 9.9 from the back dude away from you, because fuck
Yep.
that. I want to make sure at least 2 units get to shoot at you and start like chipping away at everything you're doing. Because those
Yep.
guys with like, 30 shots on the main guns that are strength 6, re-rolling if you're in range of an objective marker. This actually, looking at this pushes up the value of breaches to me quite a bit, because Green Tide and Kroot will not do well into Breacher Fish if we are rocking the full 6 units that we can take, because they absolutely have the volume and, hitting on twos, and if using stealth suits, re-rolling ones, and then full re-rolls to wound, we are getting a lot of damage through. A lot of damage through. And this is where I was saying about the katana and everything else. I just want to hand you a bucket of dice and ask you if you can deal with it. So, yeah, okay. Now, with that said, let's have a look at our Green Tide list,
Yeah.
which we'll
The
drag up
other
there and reposition.
honorable mention as well,
Yeah.
in which I haven't put in this list, is if you take Mega Knobs in this list, you can give them an enhancement to reroll saves of 1.
So they're
Um,
still very, very tanky. Still
there's
very
still
tanky.
play. Like there's still, and you would probably just, it doesn't matter. You just use them as your mid-board bully. Like there's
Right,
still play.
okay.
Like there is a real list in this where you take Gaz and 6 Mega Knobs, and all these boys have lethal hits for a turn. Like it's a very, because you just need one model in that 12-inch aura, and the whole unit gets lethal hits.
Yeah. And
So it's a
because it's
very
from
real,
Makari, you
yeah,
just have them positioned in a way where, like, I don't care about your combat. I've got you in the most advantageous position to give out all of
yeah,
these auras.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you
that's
know,
wild.
and I haven't put that in this list, but like it's a good, it's very real. It's probably going to be seeing play.
So what do you think on that, Gaz, before we go through this list? What do you think would drive you to making that change? Would that be like a meta sort of thing? Is that just you want to try it because you've tried this style list for a while? Like, what would send you down that road?
Honestly, I have a very strong feeling, bully boys. I have a very strong feeling that Mega Knobs are going to get nerfed very quickly,
Okay. Yep.
whether it be in the next slate. So I think making a list that heavily relies on them is probably a mistake.
Okay.
In terms of longevity. But aside from that, like even that, it's a lot of point sink. Like for me
Mm,
to take 6 Mega Knobs, even though they're cheap, I lose 20 boys. And then for me to take
yeah.
Gaz,
Okay.
I lose 20 boys. So you're making a lot of sacrifices as well just to run that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess then you're not, resurrecting any of them. You're not using the 9-inch jump and the blood
No, and
surge
none
and
of the
all that sort
strats
of
can be
stuff.
used on
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Gaz.
So
So
it is giving something up for that lethal hits
yeah,
aura. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so walk us through this one. Boss Necrot, we've already spoken about. The Weird Boy, we've already spoken about. You got 3 of those in this list. The Pain Boys, aside from the once per game Resurrect, is there anything else that they give your unit, or is it just there for that?
5 up, feel no pain.
Oh,
The main one. And even more fun is their power claw, or that they have a dirty syringe,
yep.
hits on 2s with a war boss, and anti-infantry 4 up on a wound or a critical wound, they get D6 mortal wounds in addition. And it's also precision, so I can just put it on your characters.
So you've got a lot of character killing potential in this list.
Yeah, like a
Okay.
precision. Yeah, because it's a precision attack, and then the wording is on a critical wound that unit takes D6 mortal wounds.
Right. Okay.
So
So
you
Pain
can just
Boy's
snipe a
looking good.
character.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Pain Boys were always good. They just kind of got outshined, I think, by
Yeah,
other
that makes
stuff.
sense. That makes sense. And then you've got
Yeah,
the war bosses. Just we've seen those included in
they've
almost
always been
everything
good.
else. Just always
Yeah,
been good. The
yeah,
last thing that I want to touch on for this one, because obviously the core of 6 boys, I saw that coming from a mile off. They're all 20 mans. The Storm boys. What do they do for you?
yeah.
Because I don't see any
Just
Squig
action
Hog boys in
monkeys.
this one. Like what?
Yeah,
What are
it's
they giving you?
the same as Snickrot. It's just action monkeys. Like, and because they're only 5-man squads, it's really easy for them to just get to places. I mean,
Mm,
20 grots, which is the 240, the two 10-mans,
yep.
is you can screen your whole deployment zone with 20 grots.
Right. Okay.
Um, and so Snickrot, like if I go fixed, for example,
Mm,
like I'm still generating CP from the grots, and you know, Snickrot does homers in the middle turn 1, and then turn 2 Storm Boys, turn 3 Storm Boys, and then turn 4 I just teleport Snickrot. He does it again. Like
Mm.
there's so much easy deployment zone homers to like it's you know. So this is a very fixed centered kind of list.
Right.
But you could
Okay.
easily run tactical at the same point
So
because
if you were
most
to go down fixed, is there just
yeah.
a set game plan that you've got, or is there anything that really stands out as like if I'm going into another swarm list, I take this. I have the capacity to do bring it down, assassinate against like the typical Tau list. Like where do you go with that?
This is probably just a
Okay.
cleanse homers or tactical probably.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have huge. I mean, for bring it down, like all I have a strat to reroll wounds, but I'm mostly strength 4 AP 1. So
Right.
uh,
Okay. Yeah. So
I'm
you're
still not
you're
getting
wounding
through.
crisis suits on fives. You're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
into like riptides and that sort of stuff. They're probably going to bounce a lot of your
Like
stuff.
I'm not
Okay.
very
Yeah.
killy.
Yeah.
But I'm very hard to kill.
Yeah. So
And
it
I'm a
makes
lot
sense that
more
you called
killy
it the
than
10
Swarm
10
Nids as
list.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
All
Because
right.
and the other thing as well is there's a very real possibility like you table me, but I've also denied you primary for 2 turns. Like
Mm,
so,
mm.
you know, if I've maxed primary for 2 turns, you've got 0 on primary for 2 turns, and then I'm tabled. Does it?
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Yeah. That can be a little bit
Yeah,
rough.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've had a look at those two. I'm just going to bring up the codex again. And what I wanted to do, because we've had a look at those two lists, the bully boys, all that sort of stuff. What I want to draw on now is as a Tau player, obviously I've got to keep a very, very good look at the meta as it's sort of shaking out and the things that can really damage me. And the stuff that's really enhanced my play is understanding what an opponent wants to do to me and what their strengths and weaknesses are. So if you can, give me the cheat codes to dealing with orcs. When you're running let's go with Bully Boys because you did put that as your like more towards the top of the meta singles sort of list.
Mm.
What will I be looking at as a Tau player specifically that wants to be using a lot of ranged attacks, staying out of combat as best I can, not having a ton of fallback and shoot across my army, which is kind of funny to say as a ranged only army. What would be the biggest things that I need to watch out for? Maybe some weird deployment jank, little tech with your trucks, any of the things that you're looking at to go, you know what, I could really catch somebody out with this. I could really do this and just end somebody's game right at that point.
Um, I mean, I think the main thing is they've got no scout, no infiltrate, besides unless I take commandos or
Mm,
Snickrot.
yep.
So I mean, just denying that board presence. And then the other thing that I've already talked about is the objective control issues.
Mm,
Um, so again, like lists that ignore things like Squeakhog Boys or Normal Boys or Beast Snagger Boys are really going to struggle with that.
okay.
Um, so that's the main thing. And then I think the other thing which you mentioned is um, like if you're not going to kill the Mega Knobs, just ignore them. It's like Catans, right? Like if you can't kill them, just ignore them. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's the main thing. I think it's very easy to waste your time shooting at something that's just not gonna die.
yeah,
it's
and
it's
you,
just not gonna die.
do you know what's funny that like when I see the list that you were talking about with the massive skews where you're like, oh, people will go too hard into knobs and mega knobs and everything else and not have anything to actually play the game. I think I'm more worried about going into a list like the one that you built and showed than I would be against
Mm,
those massive skew lists. Because those skews I know how to play into quite a lot. And there's a little bit of comfortability in knowing that your opponent can't do certain things because it stops you having to keep that in the back of your mind. Like, for example, if you've just got the one teleporter unit that deep strikes,
mm,
as soon as
mm.
that deep strike's on the board, if is Snickrot every single turn that he can just teleport
Once
somewhere?
per game.
Once
Once
per
per
game.
game.
So
Yeah.
if that ability's done and the deep strike is down, my game plan becomes infinitely more simple. So
Yeah.
I think that you having access to things like that on a balanced list is a little
Yep.
bit scary to feel like there's not a lot of room for you to make mistakes. There's not a lot of room for you to give openings to somebody or not understand that matchup. What do you
Yep.
think with, let's say you go into a good Tau player, or a good, like, shooting predominant army. What do you
Yeah.
think is going to be your most often WA turn? Or WA 1, WA 2? Where do you think you'll be sending that? Obviously, context is hard because
Um,
each game is different, but there is sort of a flow to a lot of games with staging and movement.
I mean, I think 90% of games you get a turn 2 WAR. Like I
Okay.
think 90%. Like it's like even now, it's just the turn normally. It's the
Mm,
turn the staging's normally up. It's the turn you normally need to come to the middle. Um, the thing with Bully Boys is having 2 wars gives you a lot of flexibility.
mm.
So the choices that it leaves you with is it either you could do something crazy. You could go for a turn 1 war. You could just try tag everything with Squeakhog Boys,
Yep.
and then just comfortably chuck everything in the open because you're like, well, I've got invulns. I don't care.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, Alternatively, you could do the turn 2 war and then follow it up immediately with a turn 3 war, and then
Mm,
suddenly you got 2 turns of Meganoms that you can't really get through.
yep.
Um, so I think it's comfortable saying there'll probably be a turn 2 war, but the other one is super. Like it could be it
Mm.
really is just what best suits you as a player. Like if you're an early game, then it could be early. If you you can just really judge the board state and kind of um like for example, if I'm against World Eaters, like why wouldn't I turn 1 war?
Oh,
Like
yeah, because they
it
want to
makes
go
sense,
into you
right?
as well.
They want to
Yeah,
go into me, I want
absolutely.
to go into them. Like why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Whereas something that's very like Death Guard, like why would I turn 1 war? Like I'm never getting there. They're never getting to me. Like yeah. So I
And
think it's really
yeah,
matchup dependent.
I
Yeah.
think that war, especially like having it on the mind of an orc player for turn two, means that I, as a Tau player, like that pressure that is exerted, even when a war isn't called yet, but knowing that somebody could go, all right, my threat range goes from being like 16 inches to like 24, 25 inches or something like that. That
Yep.
is not an insignificant jump in distance that I have to play around, lest I just have a bunch of stuff crash into,
Yep.
my gun line and everything, and I just get my shit pushed in just straight away. So yeah, I think that is a very non-negligible decision-making point that we're going to have to keep on the forefront of our minds when we're playing. And it's not like you can't play around it, but this is where, when I'm going into list building, knowing what I know now, I'm definitely leaning into the, like, before I put in any damage units, I've got Kroot units, I've got Kroot
Yep.
Farstalkers, I've got the redeploy, I've got maybe some Pathfinders for some Grundy maneuver tech. Like, I want a shitload of stuff that is standing in between you and whatever I need to kill those things.
Yep.
And definitely, if I can go first against orcs, it will be amazing to have stuff that is standing in your road and stopping you from going where you want to go. I know those units are going to die, but that'll be them doing the job that I need them to do.
Yep.
Yeah, mate, there is, from everything we've seen, there is a lot of very, very interesting tech here. A lot of really, really
I
cool options. And honestly, this may be the best written codex I think I've ever seen in 10th.
I
This
think it may be the
is
best codex in 10th. Like I think it is.
the stuff they have
Yeah.
given you is just,
Yeah.
when you read something, you're like, the writer understood the task. The writer
Like this has
understood the
so much
material.
flavor. Like
Oh
in
yeah.
all the it's like like I actually think the other codex I think actually ironically is CSM. Like I think
Yeah,
Dark
right.
Packs has so much flavor.
I
Like
love
like
Dark Packs.
I
I
think it's just so
Yep.
thematic. And I think this codex as a whole is very thematic.
Mm.
So I yeah, no, I
I
have to
Yeah,
agree.
definitely want more codexes like this. Though,
Yep.
if you want to throw, like just throw out the old Necrons codex, redo like a Custodes level codex for them,
Yep.
that'd be fine. If you're not willing to delete Necrons GW, that's okay. We can just go to, completely nerfing them and fucking them over. But yeah, Ben, mate, thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming and talking to everybody. I know that I got a ton
right.
out of having a look at this, and if we can, we should definitely tee up a practice game because I would love to get some reps into
Yeah,
the
sure.
new orcs. But
Sure.
chat, hopefully you enjoyed it too. If you're watching this as VOD, or even just everybody right now, do the internet things and like and share and comment and do all that sort of stuff, or don't. I'm not your dad. Just a reminder for everybody, we are doing a giveaway within the Discord. Any active Patreon or YouTube members at the $5 tier or higher go into the draw to win one of now 2 Tau codexes and data cards from the special limited edition box versions of them with the foil. So if you would like to get access to it, head to the links in the description or hit the YouTube membership down below. Once you're in the Discord, you're in for life. Be a member by the end of April and you will go in the draw to have that shipped out to you absolutely free of charge. Ben, thank you very much for your time, dude. Really, really appreciate it. We'll have to have you on again after you win a tournament using a Speed Freaks detachment just to stick it to everybody.
Oh, God. Yeah, stick it to
But chat, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.